Welcome to Making Awesome number 2, part the second. Today's topic is...
Talk about CAD with Tad.
And yes, I put him
You
up
did.
to that.
It's like,
because it's the only
Bert.
time. Yes, we had to do the Parks and Recs reference early on in the episode because it was going to bother me the whole time unless we did it. But I love Parks and Recs. Great show. If you haven't watched it, add that to your list of Netflix binge-worthy shows. Just like the last 3 episodes, just ignore them. But the rest of it is just primo TV, especially when Chris Pratt all of a sudden loses a ton of weight. That's when he was Captain America. No, Star-Lord?
No, Star-Lord.
Star-Lord. Yeah, shows how often I go to the movies. Peter Quill. See? Yeah, I like to believe I'm the geek, but I'm the geek for 3D printing.
That stuff.
And CAD and Tad, you are a geek of all things, especially Star Wars, although we're not getting into that today. I very much have that TIE fighter still. We'll get into that another day. Today's episode is all about CAD, computer-aided design. And if you don't know what that is, you've come to the right place. This podcast, Making Awesome, is supported by 3D Musketeers. And if you have any questions about CAD, want to get CAD done, or realistically want to make awesome, reach out to us. We're going to have everything you need in the description. We're going to have links to some of the stuff that we're talking about today as well. And if you are listening on audio only, got it this time, we will have a link to the video on YouTube in the description as well. So when I first kind of broached this subject, or broached this subject, I always thought that CAD was computer-aided drafting and it was made for architects. I was wrong. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, that's on recording forever. I said I was wrong. Mom, Dad, you're listening, so... but it was actually coined by Douglas T. Rosen, probably Rosen. I'm going to butcher some of these names, in the late 50s. So well before even my parents were alive. I guess my dad was born, I guess, in the later 50s, but he had no idea what CAD was when he was that young. But it was invented by Dr. Patrick Hanratty. It's an odd name, but there's a great infographic about the history of CAD. It comes from a website that I don't have up anymore. Partsolutions.com has a whole thing about it. We'll include that in the description. It's a great little infographic about CAD. And we want to go through it and talk about some of the real major features here and why it's gotten us to where we are today. Because, boy, man, 60 years later, and, man, it's changing every day. Heck, I opened up Fusion 360 yesterday, and I opened it again today for this podcast, and it had new updates again. They're updating this thing all the time. So CAD, it's tough to understand by talking about it. We're going to try our best, but we're going to show some practical examples of CAD. I'm going to show off some parts that we have here in the shop that we designed to solve problems here that we did in CAD, because doing it by traditional manufacturing would suck. And as much as I would love a multi-million-dollar workshop that I don't have to pay for, I don't have access to that. Neither does Tad. Well, you have a multi-million-dollar playground, but it's nothing that you can talk about or play with outside of work hours, at least. It is CAD is the fundamental for what 3D printing does, right? Without CAD models, without 3D models, there wouldn't be 3D printing. Now, there are sculpture-based programs out there like ZBrush and
Blender
what's
to
the
an
other one?
extent.
Sculptress is the free version of ZBrush. Blender, and Blender's a great one to start with. Its learning curve is a steep cliff to nowhere.
Mhm.
But man, if you can get proficient at it, it's a great program. It's completely open source, 100% free. And that's why the community kind of adopts it, right? The 3D printing community is huge on open source. It's very much a big thing for us because, well, without it, we wouldn't exist. Patents in the industries kept this technology out of the hands of the general masses for 20 years since it was developed in 1984, and it really only hit the consumer market back in 2008. So in 12 years as of the recording, it's 2020 right now. What a dumpster fire 2020's been. Today happens to be September 3rd, and I know that's going to give away when we recorded the podcast, but today is the second worst day in the stock market for 2020. March 17th was the worst day. This is the second worst day. We saw massive dumps in the stock market today, and that hurts everybody, especially software companies. So, we have some of the big players in the industry, but they don't come into play until the 80s. So we have some time between when it was first invented in the late 50s, coined in the late 50s and early 60s. And it's Pierre. I don't know his last name. Tad, can you help me with that last name?
Let me take a look.
Bezier.
I think Bezier. Bezier? I don't know.
Bezier. It's French. It sounds French. It's
Very
got
French.
a little tick above the E, so it could be Spanish.
I would say French.
I'm going to see if it tells us, because that would be pretty awesome if it did.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for Renault. French engineer. He is French. But he's kind of like the godfather of all of this. And, let's see. Is he still alive? That'd be kind of cool if he was. No, died in November 25th, 1999 at the age of 89. Was born September 1st, 1910.
Oof.
Lived to 89.
2 world wars.
2 world wars.
Both of which were very bad for France.
Yeah, France didn't do too well in either one of those because of America. Or something, I guess. I don't know.
Always late to the game, though, America.
Oh, yeah, we're always late to the game, but, we move the goalposts so we win every single time. That's how we were the first ones in space and the first ones on the moon. We weren't the first people in space. We were the first ones on the moon. The space race was initially to get a human in space. We didn't win that, so we moved the goalpost, first person to orbit the Earth. We didn't do that either. So we said, screw it, first person to land on the moon.
Right to the moon.
USA. We are so far off topic, but that's what I love about these podcasts. We're starting to get a little closer to being scripted. Not like we have a diagram. So if you see me look over to my right, I'm looking at my second screen to make sure that we're reasonably
keeping on track,
on topic. Yeah, because the interesting thing about this industry is we had a lot of developments in the 60s and 70s, but none of them are oddly relevant anymore, because in 1982, the CAD world changed with Autodesk, Autocad. That, to me, even though we've got like Unigraphics from Siemens and Mini CAD, which was the best-selling CAD software for Mac computers, and CAD-AM, which was used by Lockheed Martin to do aerospace, previous to 1982, I've never heard of those up until seeing this infographic. Never. Because they're irrelevant. And I'm sure that they helped out a lot, but man, it's not the same.
Yeah.
AutoCAD changed the market. They were the first CAD software made for PCs instead of mainframe computers. Because previously, you needed whack tons of computing. And, the computing inside of smartphones today put supercomputers and, mainframe computers to shame.
Right. Rather, it's not so much you needed a lot of computing. It's that the computing took more space.
It was big, right? Moore's law was just starting to become a thing. And it wasn't, we're dealing with like 7-nanometer processes right now. I believe we could measure our processes in inches or centimeters back then.
Furlongs.
Where we have, bits and bytes that were stored in tubes. Now, of course, that's not what they were using, right? If you were a
you still had the computer in a room that was the size of the room, and you had to access it from a terminal.
Oh yeah, and if those makers of the computers back then knew what we would get to today, I don't think they would ever believe it. But we didn't believe that the Jetsons would be a thing. Now, of course, we haven't hit there, but freaking Elon Musk put a Tesla into orbit around the sun. And if you want to talk about the best damn marketing you've ever seen, that's it. Because you can write off the rocket, the fuel, the car, which of course means all the R&D for the car, all the R&D for the rocket. It's all a marketing expense. But just the dreams businesses are made out of. But AutoCAD and Autodesk is so relevant, it's still here today. You can use AutoCAD from Autodesk today. We use the Autodesk suite here at 3D Musketeers. We use Fusion 360, Inventor, and AutoCAD, although we do prefer Fusion 360. Its cloud-based system is awesome. It is ITAR compliant, which is even better. And if you don't know what ITAR is, just Google it, because I'm not going to get into that today. It's a little bit beyond the scope of this talk. But, right after AutoCAD in 82, 87 was a software that you are familiar with, Tad. Pro Engineer by Creo. Talk about it.
PTC.
PTC
is the
Creo.
company. It's Creo now.
Yes, it was PTC back then. So on the infographic it says PTC Creo, I assumed. Yeah. Most people know Creo. They don't. I don't hear people call it Pro Engineer. I hear people call it Pro E.
There was like a turnaround. It's probably within the last 10 years.
Yep.
Because there were people in my engineering class who knew it and called it Pro E.
Yeah.
But it was Creo. It's the same thing. They just slapped a different name on it.
And that's common. I mean, look at CATIA and SolidWorks. They're both made by Dassault Systems.
Are they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Look at the logo for CATIA. It's DSS.
Oh. The Frenchy Frews strike again.
Yeah, and a license for CATIA, about 40,000. A license for SolidWorks, about 5,000. But you know the difference? CATIA is used in aerospace.
Ah, that'll do it.
Yep,
it's probably the same thing, just different capabilities.
Yep. And so, talk about Pro E for me for a minute here. Give me a rundown of your experience with it, your likes, your dislikes.
Well, Creo Pro E, it was decent to learn on, because that's what I had in my first drafting classes. But it is finicky. It has a tendency to explode when you do something that it doesn't like, and you will have a hell of a time getting it to cooperate. Later things that I worked with, like I switched to SolidWorks after that, and because both of them are widely used in the engineering industry. I think SolidWorks probably a little bit more. SolidWorks is a lot easier to deal with.
It is,
but it also has its.
They all do.
They all do have their quirks.
You end up with. You're always having a compromise somewhere. Nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
And you'll end up spending tens of thousands of dollars a year to find a solution that works okay.
Yeah.
Now, we had in 1994. That's when Autodesk AutoCAD released version 13, it looks like, maybe 1.3. And that's where it made the program three-dimensional. So up until then, the idea was you could build something in 3D, but it was really, really tough. Because, well, not only did we not really have the computing power,
right? It was graphically demanding.
I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in the 90s. I remember black and green and black and amber screen computers. I was blessed and had a T1 internet connection, but it was all due to like where we lived and how it worked. But man, it's nuts to think that if you tried a T1 connection these days, you throw your phone across the friggin' room. Everything's gotten so high quality that you need gobs and gobs of internet. It's a little crazy. But anyway, so we had that, but a little bit later in 94 was where the industry changed. Step file. Up until then, IGES was the premier file format, and it's still used today. But STEP is the universally accepted format. We can export STEP in Inventor, put it into Creo. We can put it into CATIA, SolidWorks, Inventor, anything. And it works every time. Because the industry said, hey, we really don't like each other.
Yeah.
But we need to play ball to some extent.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. All these CAD suites have their own native file formats, which most of them can read each other's formats now. But back in the day, that was the only way to share files from one to another.
Yep. And they all still have their what is it, like the proprietary file formats. Talk a little bit about those if you want. I mean,
sure. Well, like Creo and SolidWorks both have different file types for like parts, assemblies, drawings, and that has more to do with what information you get when you're using each suite, because like in pretty much all of our 3D modeling programs now, we have like a design history that you can go through and change things, and it'll propagate through to wherever you are, whether you're at the end or if you've moved it over to see some snapshot along the way. And that lets you tightly control how the part looks along the way, and you can go back and forth and change things more easily. It's not set in stone then. When you export into a format like STEP or IGES, you lose that design history and you just have the geometry. So there is a reason that the native file formats exist.
Right.
But
and STEP is a crazy compromise, but it was a necessary evil. Getting an SLD part file is awesome. That's SLD_PRT, I believe is
something like that for SolidWorks.
It's a SolidWorks part file.
Yeah.
But it has all the history. If you need to change one little thing, dude, you just go there, type a different number, Bob's your auntie. But if you got a STEP file, boy, it can be a nightmare. You have to hopefully you can delete whatever you're needing to change. It's a tough one.
You kind of have to work backwards from it, and that's the compromise.
It is. It's one that I believe is worth making. And that way, companies like 3D Musketeers, we don't need to have a copy of every software. We can easily just handle one or two different softwares that accept everybody's files and play ball. So 1994 is when we got that switch over to STEP. But then right around, I guess we had SolidWorks 95 come out in, you'll guess it, 1995. That was, I guess, really the first big SolidWorks piece that came out. That was Dassault Systems. I don't know why that name. I don't like that name, but it's the name. Dassault.
It's like the French
Dassault.
Lockheed Martin. I don't know if the T is silent. Could be like Renault.
Dassault.
I don't. Yeah. It's like the Lockheed Martin of France.
I feel the need to
company.
I feel the need to hold up a mug with my pinky extended saying it. Yes, I have a mug on my desk. It's got pens and thermistors in it. Oh no, hit the microphone. Sorry.
Don't do that.
I know,
Said
I'm
you weren't going to
sorry.
do that.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Oh, Grant.
But, you know, CATIA came out 1996, Inventor in 1999. And in 1999, we had a quantum leap. And you see tons of changing in the year, starting in the year 2000. You know, every single year, companies are dropping multiple revisions of files because computing became affordable, it became fast, it became reliable, and it became small.
And it changed more often.
Yeah. You know, geez, we just saw NVIDIA release the RTX 3000 series, where the 2000 series is pretty darn good, but you know, a 2080 Ti or 2080 Super runs you close to a full $1,000. The 3070 and the 3080 Super are going to be like $500 or $600. NVIDIA is going to change the game with these next cards. And I am looking forward to upgrading my dinosaur. We're going to see how well she does recording this call, sharing the screen, and doing video and audio soon when I share my screen to show off some CAD work. But we will see. So 2012. So we had a lot of movement, right? Tons of different changing. 2012 is when Autodesk launched Autodesk 360, where they moved their stuff to the cloud. Now, I don't like cloud software. I don't like it because I don't like this subscription model. I understand from a business standpoint, like if I'm the one offering the subscription, it's awesome because it helps pay for the recurring costs of maintenance, of upgrades and all that. But as an end user, man, it just feels like I'm being bent over without the common courtesy. And that's not good. But, you know, Autodesk, when they launched Fusion 360, I think they, you know, really changed the system and made it to a point where it can be free. You know, we have an education license. We also have a professional license. So we use our education license for teaching. We use our professional license for work. And you can get a hobbyist license totally free with Fusion 360 as of the recording of this video. Of course, that is all subject to change. But moving to the cloud made sense to some extent, right? You can offload all the processing from local servers onto a cloud server where computing power in 2012 started to get cheap. Server grade processors started falling in prices, and it made sense. It made sense.
Well, and you also have the collaborative aspect.
Yes.
I know that
it didn't happen much until I'm trying to see when they launched Fusion 360, and I don't see it on this list. Dang it, Bobby.
Well, we're already post 2012, so it's within the last couple of years.
Fusion hasn't been out that long because in 2015, Onshape came. So Onshape, as far as I'm aware, now this is unsubstantiated, I did not look this up, but I remember this, was started by ex-engineers of SolidWorks because they believed that CAD should not be expensive.
Right.
The trick with Onshape was it was 100% free, and even better, it was browser-based. So it worked off of a cloud server. You did not need to have a rip-roaring, rocking computer. You could do it off a friggin' Chromebook. Of course, those didn't exist much in 2015, but fine.
Point is, you could do it on a bare-bones system.
Right. And Onshape quickly became the industry standard because it was free, they protected your data, and you also had the ability to share it. And that was really, really interesting. It was the first time where we were able to send clients 3D viewable files of their data. Now, back then, if we sent them that, they had access to download it. There was no way for us to restrict downloading. With Fusion 360, we can send 3D viewable models, but still restrict the downloading aspect, which is great when we want to send pieces for review and we haven't been paid, or we're not ready to relinquish over the intellectual property rights because the project just isn't finalized.
Right, because as much as we hate to admit it, sometimes there are times where a client will just abscond with the data, never to be heard from again.
Dude, it wasn't with data, but it happened to me a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a month, no, it was a couple of months ago. There's an individual that needed a part for an RV solar panel. Hi, Ricky, you still owe me money. He had a 3D printed part, gave it to me. I recreated it. It was really, really easy. And I sent it to him because he needed it quickly. So he printed it overnight. We sent it to him and I sent him the invoice. He never paid. And it was only like a $25 part total. But that one hurt me because like I made time as a business owner. I didn't send it to one of the engineers, didn't have an engineer come over and design it. I did it myself, right? And he just gave me the middle finger. That just sucks. So Ricky.
I know. It's not common courtesy. Come on, Ricky.
Yeah, pay up.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a reminder at night. You're not going to read because you never read them. Onshape, though, shot themselves in the foot.
Too good?
No. They changed their terms of service.
Oh, yeah.
And they changed their terms of service to allow the company, Onshape, an unlimited license to whatever you had designed. So things that you could design that had non-disclosures, parts that were secretive, now all of a sudden had a second owner and you didn't have a say in this.
Death of a platform.
It pissed off the community. Now there are still people that use it. They don't allow you to privatize models anymore without paying. So that's a little complicated. So it's, I can't recommend it. Let's just put it this way. Thomas Sandlander, that's not his real name. He goes by Tom's 3D on YouTube. You guys can look him up. Great YouTuber. Would love to one day have him as a guest on this podcast. But he was one of the first people to figure it out. And he blackballed him hardcore. Because that's not what you do. You don't do that kind of thing to makers. And Fusion 360 they had been out since before that happened, but no one was really paying attention to them because, well, it was easier. Onshape was browser-based. I didn't need to download anything. I could use it wherever I was, tablet, phone, computer, laptop, anything. I could use it. It didn't matter. Well, Autodesk says, hey, you know how they're licensing your data? Hey, we won't do that. And you know what? It's yours. It's free, baby.
And there was an exodus. Mass
exodus. You might even be able to see it in their stock price. I haven't even looked.
We could look in the history too.
I don't even know if Autodesk is publicly traded, but we're not going to get into that. Because you're coming full circle on that stock market.
Oh, I know.
That's pretty cool. But, they made a really robust system. And in the past couple of year and a half, they have kind of limited it. The free package used to enable full cloud support where you can do collaborative design. Now that's no longer a thing. You have to have an education license or you have to pay for it to get that, or a student license to get that cloud functionality. But even if you have to pay for it, it's $500 a year.
That's not bad.
It's nothing compared to a SolidWorks, which is $5,000, or CATIA, which is $40,000 to $50,000. So big differences there. So really the future that we're looking at here is VR CAD. And I've tried this back in 2016. I tried out was it 2016? Had to have been 2016. When I tried out a very alpha version of CAD in VR. And it was awesome. I'm someone that had a hard time adopting CAD because you can't just draw a cube. You can't do that. You have to draw a square and then extrude it into a cube. And until you can get that through to your mind that CAD is 2D things extruded and then manipulated, it's really hard to understand. So we're going to transition into a point where if you are listening audio only, it might get a little tough because we'll
do our best to describe it.
Right. We're going to be sharing some pieces that I have here at HQ of 3D Musketeers. Some pieces that we made for our Fusion 3 F410, a hood prop, and I don't know if...
Actually might show up better in the model.
Yeah, it'll show up better in the model. And where's the other... I had it. What did I do with it? Oh, I know what I did with it. It's right here.
Oh, it's right there.
The lime green piece that you see, this microphone, which is a Samson Q2U, if anybody's curious, does not fit in your standardized microphone stands. It doesn't fit. So I didn't know that when I bought it. 3D printing to the rescue. This is actually a TPU substrate. So it's soft and flexible, and it still allows it to work with the shock mount. So I'm going to bring this back down. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see. We're going to start with the hood prop, and then we're going to move into the microphone piece. So anyone that likes Fast and the Furious might get that reference when Brian, a.k.a. Busta, R.I.P. Paul Walker, says, "Pop the hood," because this is a hood prop. I am holding up what is, well, it's just to the naked eye, looks like a couple of rectangles, realistically, boxes, if you will, in crazy colors, because every now and then we end up with spools that have like 30 grams left. So when we do parts for ourselves, we tend to go kind of crazy on the colors because we can, and it's fun. But what you don't see down here, we have all these different sketches. So let's take a look. We have all these different sketches that were used to extrude this body. We're going to turn on an analysis here, so you can actually see the interior. There is a pin mechanism that enables this to clip in. You can't take it out, at least I don't think you can, but that doesn't matter. You could not easily print this in one piece and still have it spin. It's like the ratchet when you're a kid, but without the noise. I'm like, watch it break and just smack me in the head, but we printed it in a way that it's very strong. Right. In this particular axis. So we needed it to go together, but we also needed it to spin. The bottom section that you see here, I'm going to zoom out to it, that we made via measurements. So we did measurements of the racking system behind me. So these are racks from Sam's Club. Highly recommended. They're like $150. They hold 2,500 pounds of shelf, including big American-made 3D printers like the Fusion 3 F410. If you want to get your own Fusion 3 F410, reach out to us, 3dmusketeers.com, info@3dmusketeers.com. Hey, gotta pay the bills, right? You know, let's sell a Fusion 3 or 2 or 3. So this part, it's all designed with, what is that, 6 different sketches? We have, I'm going to turn off the analysis so the whole thing comes back up. And we have 2 bodies, and we can turn off these individual bodies so you can see the parts. But if we look down here, and this shows up in the video, right, Tad? Yeah. We didn't check any of this beforehand, so, you know, quality stuff.
Do it live.
Yeah. I started off literally as a rectangle. We extruded it. Let me hit OK here. I need to move this out of the way. Then we went to another sketch, which was the hole at the top. We extruded it down, right? 1 inch, 25.4 millimeters is 1 inch. I did some offset faces here. So that's allowing me to move something up and down a little bit. Made a new sketch, then made a new extrude. And what this did is it took the cutout on the inside where everything locks into place. Okay.
You might want to do a section at this point.
Yeah, you know, well, the section doesn't go back that far, so.
Make a new one. Yeah, there it does.
Yeah, but I think if I click here. Oh, it does work. Hey, look at that.
It goes across time and space, Grant.
Wow.
Yeah. See, so then that takes that cylinder out, and you got your cutout.
And so then, you know, just messing around, add some fillets as you do, because I love fillets.
Fillets
you know that
are good.
Was it the Frank's Red Hot? I put that on everything, right? The old lady that says it. Yeah, fillets. We put that on everything because hard overhangs are tough for 3D printing. It's like making something out of wet spaghetti. And if you can smooth into those curves, hey, it's fine. And, you know, let's be real, guys and gals out there. Curves are good.
They're good. Well, and from an engineering perspective, what you're doing is you are improving the strength of your part because you're reducing stress concentrations. Sharp corners are terrible for that. That's how things snap and split and crack, because you're directing all of your stress right at that point. Whereas if you smooth it out, it makes it spreads it out, so to speak.
Yep. And so this step here, come on, I have faith in you. We're extruding this new body. The trick, I got to find out where I did it. Where we did the...
You need to turn the section off?
No, it's right here where we did the draft. So everything is drafted so that I can clip in tightly. We did a cone section so that the fingers could bend a little bit. Not that they did. Oh, look, Fusion 360 is encountering performance issues.
I wonder why.
It's because I'm using a 4770K with 32 gigs of RAM and a GTX 770. If you guys want to look that up, it should be on the timeline. But great computer back in the day when we built it. And honestly, it still holds up pretty well today. You know, and so little sketches, extrudes, fillets, drafts, all these are terms that are needed to know in the CAD process. And you know, even the text, which is Ossifont, an open source font designed for 3D printing, which we like because it doesn't have crazy overhangs. Everything is smooth. We love Ossifont. And because it's an internal part, we get to have a little fun. We also added a flange so that this part can't fall down too far. That flange is
because it goes into the tube of your rack system there, right?
It does. And anybody can make this. This is not tough, but if you don't want to, that's what companies like 3D Musketeers are here for. Now let's go over to the microphone adapter. Microphone adapter, it's what, 2 sketches, a couple of lofts, and my man, gotta have them fillets. And, you know, actually my brother was saying it to me earlier, and mine's actually doing it too. I need to put a flange on this for version 2 so that it can only go so deep into the mount and it can't push all the way out. But, I mean, if you don't smack your microphone, you're probably fine.
Yeah, it's good enough for now.
Yeah, and CAD is complicated.
It's got a learning curve, yeah.
It does, and it's a really odd learning curve because it's... Depending on how precise you want to be, your learning curve can get steeper and steeper.
Right.
But if you want to do it on a entry level, man, there are so many great videos out there. I don't know if we're ever going to get into that. I'm not going to tell us that we won't, but right now it's not. We don't have like the bandwidth to do that kind of thing. But CAD is really important, and without it, 3D Musketeers wouldn't exist. I would have never met Tad. I don't know have we told the story of how we met?
I don't know.
Because we met through CAD. Well, long story short, we had a job that a client brought to me, us, 3D Musketeers for 3D printing. Tad was the designer on it that this guy had picked up from somewhere else, probably on a street corner somewhere, as you do.
Yeah, and I was shopping around for 3D printing providers.
And he screwed us both.
Oh, yeah, big time.
He screwed us both. And we developed a relationship over the general disdain for another human.
Shared trauma.
Yeah. Not so much mutually assured destruction, but very much an upsetting experience nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I think we came out on the better end.
I would absolutely agree. You know, I think we're kind of getting to the point where we can wrap this bad girl up. I think we
hit all the major
touched
points.
Everything. Yeah.
One thing I would say before we quit those, you mentioned earlier the cloud sharing aspect of like Fusion 360. And I was going to say from a collaborative standpoint, it's really helpful because then, you know, like you and I could have the same design open and we could turn over control to each other and make changes on the fly. And in the olden days, or at least, you know, last decade or so, you'd have to save a file, email it to someone, they'd have to open it, send it back to you, you know, to do that kind of back and forth. Or you'd have to have like an enterprise level CAD suite. Like there are certain configurations of like SolidWorks I know that, you know, say an engineering firm has one big enterprise level system, and I forget what the exact phrase is. It's PDM, I think.
I'm not sure.
It's some kind of data management system where all of the files get checked into a singular database, and then you can see who altered things when. And that's basically what the cloud sharing is in Fusion 360, but it's a lot clunkier and heavier, you know. So you can get that kind of functionality with some of the name brand big CAD systems that are used in engineering, but at the cost of probably like 50 grand or something, you know. So we really appreciate being able to use Fusion 360 in for much less cost and have similar flexibility.
Yeah, if you're watching Autodesk, hit us up. Get them digits.
Sponsorship, please.
Yeah, we want that podcast money. You know, we're always, you know, we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. So small businesses, we're doing everything that we can to look at new avenues to get business, to bring in clients, to make money. And like I said in the last one, I've always been told I had a face for radio. So here we are, decided to do a video podcast because I don't know, I figured my background's kind of cool. Of course, everything is finished, right? And I didn't have the time to clean it off and start the next prints yet, but that's okay. It's the way she goes.
It means it's working.
It means it's working. It means it's working. So we're hoping to build a thing. If you are an inventor, if you are a maker, if you're a little
intimidated by CAD,
if you just like cool stuff, you found the right place. And if you want to be a guest, hit us up. We'll have all the information in the description. You can go to 3dmusketeers.com, fill out the contact us form, and let us know that you want to be a guest. Mind you, this is episode 2, so who the hell knows? I think, unless I made What is 3D Printing episode 2, and I might just be completely ruining this. I can always re-record
2 or
that
3.
It's episode something. But, you know, we hope you guys learned something today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You know, unlike some of our competitors, we answer the phone. Unlike some of our competitors, we answer emails. And unlike some of our competitors, we give a damn. 3D Musketeers, making awesome. Episode number 2, 3, who knows? Guys, we hoped you learned something about CAD. We hope you continue to make awesome. Send us, I don't know, send us pictures of what you're making. And if we get enough people doing it, maybe we'll feature one every week and we'll have a maker on here talking about what they do. So it's free advertising for you. Shh. So let's make it happen. Stay safe out there, everyone. Wear your mask, socially distance, and don't be jerks. Love each other more. Yes, love each other more. Joel Telling likes to tell you to high five, but from a distance. My name's Grant.
I'm Tad.
That's Tad. And this was What is CAD?
With Cad with Tad. Cad with Tad.
Have a good one, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.